Pastor Dave here, and we are in Proverbs 22. So let's open up the Bible, New King James Version, and see what we can learn together. Proverbs 22, starting with verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. Boy, I tell you what, it sounds like the Bible's got it backwards on a lot of things, doesn't it? Because your average person, the mindset of the majority would be that the ultimate thing to seek is as much money as you can get your hands on, as much money as you can put in a safe place. But God's Word says that a good name is more valuable than great riches. And by a good name, I think it means you have a reputation that is sterling. You have a character that others either begrudgingly or with admiration recognize. You're a person of character. And this is saying in the grand scheme of things, in the ultimate value of things, if you are a person of recognized character, then you have gained the greatest riches. Boy, I agree with that. Verse 2. The rich and the poor have this in common: the Lord is maker of them all. We need to remember that. I mean, there's a lot that separates us. There's a lot that you can look at a person and say, well, I have nothing in common with this person. But when it's all said and done, God makes us all. We're all created by God, and that means there's an inherent value in every person. I mean, they may have marred that value and hidden that value with their behavior, but deep inside they're created of God, and therefore we need to respect that aspect of every person. Verse 3, a prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. It says if you're smart, you will see when something is evil, and you'll stay away from it. That's being prudent. Simple people, hey, no problem, I can handle it. It may be evil, but it'll not overtake me. And simple people that take on that mindset are the ones that get themselves in trouble. It is prudent when you know something to be wrong to stay away from it. How about verse 6? We've heard this quoted all our lives. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's a truism. It is most often true that if you train a child in the proper way, this being the way of the Lord, by the time he gets old, he will have chosen that as his pathway of life. That's a promise I think we can take and believe and trust and live by. Of course, there are exceptions. There are some people that move far from the way they were taught as a child and never go back. And it has to do with human choice, of course. But generally speaking, in the vast majority of situations, you train that child right, and he'll come back to it when he gets older. Verse 7, I've heard this quoted many times: the borrower is servant to the lender, which is an admonition to stay away from borrowing money. I mean, sometimes you have to, like for a house, or for many of us, for a car. But most of the time, we need to save our own money and buy things with our own money instead of borrowing, because otherwise you become servant to the lender. The bank owns you. In other words, the debt becomes your taskmaster. And you know, a lot of people are that way. They have borrowed so much because they can't wait. They can't save and wait. They have to have it. They have to have it now. And this says you become servant to the lender. What a miserable life that would be. Verse 9, he who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. A generous eye, which means that you are looking for opportunity to bless the poor. You're looking for, and you can't give to everyone, and you can't meet every need that comes your way, but you have your eye open, your ears attentive, and when a need comes along and you pray about it and you feel like that God is okay with it, you try to meet that need for people who are genuinely poor. I like verse 10. It's a word of advice for us at church, and it's a word of advice to you as far as your relations with people are concerned. Cast out the scoffer, and contention will leave. Yes, strife and reproach will cease. The scoffer, a person that has a jaded attitude about life in general. The scoffer who matters that are serious and matters that are sacred, the scoffer will find reason to ridicule. And if you're not careful, this kind of attitude will infect the fellowship. They'll cause the fellowship to start taking on that ungodly, negative attitude. It happens in an office. It happens in a neighborhood. It happens in a church. This says you cast out the scoffer and contention will leave. Sometimes the best addition is subtraction. You remove that cancerous presence in your fellowship, and it makes things a whole lot better. All right, look at verse 15. Here's another one of those that's quoted often. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. Rod of correction is just visibly kind of irritating to me. Rod, you take a metal rod or even a heavy wooden rod and you beat a child with it. I see no place for that in today's culture. I do see a place for correction, and you can define correction in a lot of ways. It doesn't necessarily mean you pick up a weapon and you beat a child. But foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. We're born with that sinful nature, and sometimes it makes us foolish. And you're not doing a child any favor by allowing them to continue in foolish ways. You're training them, and they're going to grow up and be that way, and the consequences can be severe. So the rod of correction, speaking figuratively, is a way to keep foolishness from finding a place in a child's heart. All right, verse 28. Do not remove the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. We newer generations, as we come along, we tend to think we know better than those that came before us, and we make up our minds we can say it better, we can do it better. But then as we get older, hopefully we learn that some of those ancient ways really weren't so bad, that maybe we need to respect them and use them. Do not remove the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. I think it's talking about boundaries of land, placing a rock there or placing a pole there to mark territory. You remove those, and next thing you know, you don't know which lines it's okay to cross. And I think that's obvious concerning the things that we've been taught from the Bible, God's Word. You start questioning the authority and removing the boundaries. Next thing you know, you're in places doing things that really aren't healthy for you or the kingdom. Well, those are some verses in Proverbs 22. I hope you've been blessed, and we'll come back soon and we'll look at Proverbs 23. God bless you.